The most news in the morning. CNN's American Morning. Weekday, 6 a.m. Eastern.
How has it been for you as you have gone on these 3 adventures this year?
Well, I've spent about 6 months of the last year living in it. But I will say it's been an amazing experience. I've seen some things that many people will probably never, ever be able to see, and really telling the story of the last great frozen places on the planet.
Yeah, and you talk about how you wanted to document some of the changes that have become more and more evident over the past decades when it comes to global warming. Let's start with Everest. What did you find? Any differences?
Incredible differences here. And if you talk to any of the locals traveling up the Khumbu Glacier, they just talk about how much the glacier has retreated, as well as just kind of the size of the ice pinnacles, how much they've decreased. Also, on our summit day, I was near the South Summit looking out across the vast expanse of the Khumbu Valley, and all around you could see evidence of where glaciers had been, not where they are.
That's astounding. These are the places that we sort of think of as untouchable when it comes to staying the way that they always have been. North and South Poles as well. What were the most noticeable things on each of those journeys when you went there to document what changes have taken place?
The North Pole has experienced dramatic changes. I did an expedition in 2006. And just in those several years since I had last been there, the ice was noticeably thinner, and because it's thinner, it's more rough and kind of fractured, lots of open water, and also the weather patterns are very sporadic, winds shifting very randomly instead of kind of general specific weather patterns.
When we talk about this, and I mean, it's such a huge issue. Many people care about it. Young people in particular seem to be more energized about trying to save the environment, trying to make sure that we don't lose some of these places. But what can people sitting at home do if they say, okay, global warming, there are concerns, but what can I do about it?
Yeah, well, I thought the same thing when I started planning this expedition. North Pole, South Pole, Mount Everest in 1 year, that seems impossible. I think what I promote is individual action and national legislation. I have a philosophy, begin with one step in accomplishing big goals. The problem with global warming is a huge thing, just like climbing Mount Everest or going to the North or South Pole. And so individual things, all these little things add up. Conservation is a big thing, using less energy-efficient appliances, things like that, and on an individual level, but also really stimulating our national government to promote legislation that's going to reduce carbon emissions.
How do you, when you talked about national action in terms of politics, I mean, it's such a politically charged issue. We have new polling that shows there's been a bit of a shift in terms of whether people agree that global warming is a proven fact. We saw ClimateGate. We saw a lot of back and forth about cap and trade legislation. I mean, do you see us taking perhaps some steps backward in people wanting to move on this issue?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. I feel like the debate has circled back to where it was in maybe 2005 and 2006. The important thing, I think, is not to make this issue, it's a political issue, but not to make it political. We need to focus on energy efficiency, on creating new renewable energy, creating jobs. These things, these are good for our economy, good for businesses. It doesn't have to be a political issue. We can protect our environment, stop global warming, and still be smart about our economy and our country.